The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
Greetings, one and all, to another fine episode of the show. Today, our film topic of discussion will be Sergio Leone's 1966 Western staple, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And I'll be doing so with my guest from Outlaw Nation, the Top 10, and Schmodown. It's my dear friend, John Rocha.
Hello. What's up, Brandon? How are you?
Oh, I'm thrilled to have you here. I'm just going to sit back, relax. But, doing great.
Yeah.
Have you on here early on in this show's lifetime, and happy to have you. I mean, we've met each other, we've known each other 15 years now?
Wow. That's
like 05. Yeah.
Crazy to think about, man. 05. Wow. Yeah. So much has happened since 2005 in my life.
We live in a whole new world.
That is crazy. Yeah, that's for sure. On so many levels.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great to be on here, and I'm glad you asked me to be on. I'm excited. And I remember when you announced this thing, I was like, you better have me on this thing. And I'm excited to be talking about something I know very, very well, which is Westerns. And getting into the good, the bad, and the ugly will be a lot of fun with you for sure.
Oh, yeah. I'm very excited about that. So, I mean, back when I met you, you were the actor. You were coming to be, and now you are Rocha, the personality. Yeah. So, I mean, we met, I remember we were all excited about you had got a part on Charmed when I first met you. We all, like, everybody, like, that night made sure they didn't watch the Prime, but we checked in on Charmed. That I don't know if anybody we knew watched Charmed at the time, but we all watched Payback's a Witch.
Payback's a Witch. Yeah. That was the first thing I ever booked as a on-camera actor and got paid for here in California. It was great. It's fun. I'd still get residuals for that. Still get the occasional $26 check, $28 check, and 28 cents, 26 cents. Yeah, it's not $2. And then occasionally the episode will be up and someone will tweet me or something and saying, "Holy crap, is that you, Rocha?" And so, it's fun to remember it back then. But yeah, I was trying to be the actor, pretty frustrated with it all, pretty frustrated with my life back then, not happy doing it, and then working the job to try to stay afloat. And the job was fine for paying the bills, but it wasn't the greatest job.
Right.
So it was, it was certainly not the greatest time in my life looking back, but I met cool people like you and other people there who I became friends with.
Our hustling days.
And still are friends with. Our hustling days, right. And we work with Forbes' own Scott Mendelson.
Scott Mendelson, the Moranzio
what a crazy
Vance.
World. Yeah. All right, Moranzio Vance. That's right.
Yeah, we were talking about. I went on. Dave Cronmiller had me on his show to promote this show the first week, and we were reminiscing about that. And we were like, man, the talent pool we kind of had going with. We had we were like, it was a dream job, but it wore you out and frustrated you like crazy.
Yeah.
Like, ideal was like, we sit and watch cool movies all day, except for watching Wallace and Gromit like 20 times in one day. But
or Norbit.
Norbit. Oh, the Norbit days.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and you did a lot of like Spanish language voiceovers work for movies too back in the day. That was
up until like earlier this year, I was repped by William Morris for both English and Spanish, and of course they shut down the voiceover division except for celebrities. So those of us who aren't names got pretty much let go, and put out there to go look for other voiceover agents. But yeah, for 15 years, I was there doing stuff voiceover-wise in Spanish or English, getting the occasional commercial, the occasional PSA, or occasional animated series, doing some Transformers stuff, doing some other things. It was a blast. It was a lot of fun doing that. I'm still doing it. I still record. Yeah. If you want to hear any of the stuff I do now, for anybody who's listening, you can go over to Crypt TV, and any of their promotions for movies that are coming out, I'm doing the voice, and I'm like, but everything you wanted to know about this, that's me. And so it's been a fun little side gig to have with the great people over there at Crypt TV. So still stretching out the voiceover muscles in other ways other than doing shows on my channel. So yeah.
Right. And you did also a voiceover for my favorite film of that year. It came out with Leah Whannell's Upgrade. I think you did. There was like a Grindhouse trailer, wasn't there?
Oh yeah. The Grindhouse trailer. Yeah. That was a lot of fun too.
I was psyched about that. But yeah, so when do you pinpoint exactly where you like transitioned from like actor to just media personality, and you kind of were like, that's now where I want to be at? Or
I would say it's probably 2000. What are we? 2020. So 2015, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
I was coming out of a pretty terrible breakup with a girl I'd been seeing for 5 years. It was pretty horrific relationship. And I don't mean horror and, like Invisible Man or anything like that, but it was more like, it was just like we were just a bad matchup. And it really kind of broke me in half and ripped away a lot of whatever was left of my self-esteem and self-worth. And so I was pretty down on myself, and I wasn't booking much, and I wasn't succeeding as an actor. And to be honest with you, Brandon, I really wasn't even happy when I was on set, whenever I'd book anything, because just sitting around waiting to say lines into a camera, I just didn't feel any control. And I hated that I couldn't be doing something I really wanted to do at a level I wanted to do it. And so when I was in some pretty deep depression of having the relationship fall apart, and for the second time, and in a space knowing that it was really done, I was like, well, what am I going to do with my life now? Because I'm not happy with the acting or whatever, and I'm in a relationship. And my friend Christian Harloff, who of course is the head of the Schmodown, he calls me up and he's like, "Hey man, do you want to come and be a guest on this Star Wars show?" And that's basically how it started. And I started being a guest, really enjoyed being a guest. And then he walked away from the show and said, "Do you want to take my spot as the co-host with the great Tiffany Smith?" And I was like, "Yeah." And Tiffany showed me the bones. Tiffany paid me Tiffany slid me some money under the table as a friend every week that she was getting paid. And in exchange, I was learning, I was building rundowns, I was doing all this stuff. And I found that I got so much more satisfaction out of the 6 months of doing that than I had in the previous 15 years of doing acting here in Los Angeles. And the truth is, to survive, not here in Los Angeles, I'm in San Diego now, but in Los Angeles, to survive as an actor in Los Angeles, you got to want it so bad. And if you don't, unless you're one of the pretty people, it's going to be really hard to survive and succeed doing that business. And I just realized that I was getting more satisfaction out of being a host and a pundit and a future critic and what have you, than I was trying to get into these movies that I was talking about or criticizing. And Brandon, when we worked at those places, we sat around and talked about movies all the time.
Yeah, exactly. We all should have realized at the time and got ahead of the game that's what we really liked. Because
my God.
We used to talk. I think the coworkers, like, they used to call like George or whatever. They'd be like, "You're like the walking IMDb." I'm like, "Yeah, but I wanna be in and write movies." And like you said, you have to want it. Like me, my problem was I like to know my money was there a little bit. There's a lot of sacrifice. There's a lot of job quitting to go audition, not even get your part, to audition. And that was something that I realized, like, I can't do. And when I had that script for a while that you were going to be involved with, and I had that deal where it was like this, they were going to give us $2 million to produce it, and I spent a whole year just location, and then it just fell through. And I was like, I can't do that every time. I can't do that. I can't. It's not me. There are people, and that was like my only like real chance to have something I created go, and that was too much. But I mean, and you were more willing to make sacrifices that I couldn't, and I always respected that. Like,
I mean, I was let go from that job, and I really kind of self-sabotaged myself because I was really unhappy, and I didn't know what to do with my life. But I knew it wasn't testing DVDs or running a crew of people testing DVDs, and my father had died, so I was in a really messed up place emotionally and mentally. Like, I was so lost. And I got, like I said, a self-sabotage, got myself let go from that place. But while I was on unemployment, a friend of mine, Andre Gordon, I think you've met him a
Andre,
couple
yeah, he
times.
used to
Yeah.
come watch games with us. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. So Andre slid in and Andre was like, hey, I want to start this wrestling show. And so that was my first taste. Before the Christian Harloff thing, it was the wrestling show.
The Money in the Bank. Yeah, I used
yep,
to watch
the
you.
Money
I
in the
didn't even
Bank
watch
show.
wrestling, but I watched you guys.
Yeah,
That was fun.
we had great chemistry and a lot of fun. Of course, Andre's in Miami now, but like at the time, that was a thing that was like kind of pulled me out of some doldrums, and he was a manager as well, so he took me on to represent me as an actor. I immediately, I had a little bit of money saved up, so I bought new headshots. I got a voice reel done to kind of apply for other things as well, and so I ended up getting some things and booking some things and went on a little bit of run, and I was able to make a living for like, I don't know, 5 years or 4 years off just the acting stuff and the occasional unemployment periods. And it was nice to be a full-time actor,
right?
Constantly auditioning, constantly hustling, constantly. And if you can't get farther ahead when you have it wide open for you to do that, then I think that says volumes about your actual desire. And, but you have to go through that. And so I had to go through that to climb out the other side. So, yeah.
But now, I mean, it's been hella rewarding for you. I mean, your personality, like a guy I met, his name's like Willie Beeman or whatever. I met him at a wedding one time and was talking about things. He started following what I was doing, and he noticed that like I had you as a guest on my old show one time. He's like, you had Rocha? I was like, all right, Johnny is definitely like I knew you were well known, but I was like, wow, that hit close. I was like, yeah, I know John Rocha. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a thing, yeah.
Schmodown, you kind of just like came through, and that was like the ultimate. Yeah. I feel like the ultimate turn for you because your knowledge, because we know you had the knowledge all through the thing, and you used to like a little fact. You used to sit in like was it the Golden Globes? You sit in the van, and help the red carpet.
Still
people
do
be
that.
Like, that is Sir Ian McKellen. He is in the X-Men movies, and he's going to be in this, and like you would help him with that.
Yeah.
Pre-iPhones. Off your knowledge. You didn't have a book with you. You just knew the people and you knew everything. And I think that might be is that a little secret people don't typically know? Or
yeah, well, I mean, I have no problem talking about it.
I have no problem talking about it. But I mean, like I've talked about it before, like because I think that was a really cool thing you did.
Yeah, talent spotter. I still do it for the SAG Awards and occasionally do it for the Golden Globes. And it's an easy paycheck. It's like $500. Sit there for an hour and a half, and just like I drive in, show up. They tell me who I'm supposed to find in the crowd when they show up. 9 times out of 10, I know every person on the list. And then if I don't, I do a little bit of research. And then when the red carpet opens, I'm in the truck. And then I'm like, that's this person. That's camera 6. That's this person. This is the time code, blah, blah, blah. And it's fun. And I do it every year at the SAG Awards. It's a quick, like I said, it's a quick little hour and a half and get paid a nice little chunk of change and roll on with the rest of my day. So, yeah. And it's helped me in the Schmodown because I just have a natural proclivity to connect a face with a name. And it's always been something that I've had a gift to do. And so, yeah.
And the theatrics.
Yeah, the theatrics.
The outlaw, yes.
Yeah, I mean, Christian was the one who pitched that to me. Christian said, hey, I want to take this to the next level. Can you create this character? And I was, well, it has to be a heel. It was okay. And we talk about Western stuff, and it's like we both claim we came up with the outlaw. So it's a nice little argument between the both of us. And then from there, he was like, I need you to do, like, you get the wrestling thing, the pro wrestling thing, you know what to do. And he said, if this pops off and you start winning, trust me, you're going to get a lot of followers. And he was 1,000% right. Mm-hmm. All these people who've come over on my social media, the foundation of them were from the opening days of the Schmodown, when so many people were watching, when we had like 300,000 views per episode or per match. Those people started following me on Twitter and on Instagram. And then when I got the full-time job at Collider, they started following me even more because then I had legitimacy being at an outlet. So it was a fun experience, and ride. And it's been a fun ride. And I totally always give credit to Christian Harloff for believing in me and opening the doors for me. I did what I needed to do to be successful once I walked through the doors, but Christian was always great at opening the doors for me. And I'll always thank him for that.
Yeah, thank you. And you've now gone on your own with the Outlaw Nation.
Yeah,
which is a huge enterprise.
Yeah, I was let go earlier this year from Collider because they were making cuts and they wanted to focus more on their written content wise. And so I sat around not knowing what to do. And my girlfriend was the one near the end of January who said to me, like, you need to shit or get off the pot and move the fuck on already. And so I know we can cuss on here. So
yeah.
okay. So And it was a hard fight. Like we almost broke up that night. The fight was so hard. Well, no, she said to me, like, enough is enough. You can't do anything to change it. Now start build. This could be, you could look at this as an opportunity to build something of your own. Why don't you build your shot so that you can be the first person to get everything for your own channel? And so
perfect.
That's when I started to kind of dial in. I reached out to some friends and they were willing to help me for free, which I was blown away by because I tried to offer money. And they all turned it down. They were all like saying like, hey, you have provided me years of entertainment, but it's the least I can do. And so just kind of worked out in a very good way. And now we've got a strong base of people and we're still building. And I'm still learning how to create a successful channel. And it's been a fun journey for sure.
And it's the great thing I like about it. And what kind of Outlaw Nation's kind of expired what I'm doing here a bit is it's just you. It's your stuff and it falls under your banner. And so if you want to talk about something random that you've never done about it one day, it's the Outlaws thing. So it's fine. Like you talk about politics on there. You talk about Star Wars. You have all the guest interviews. Yeah, sports interviews. It's everything that's John Rocha.
Yeah,
and it's what is awesome, and it's the perfect idea. Like, not limit yourself, and
it's got to reflect who I am, right, Brandon? And maybe other people would say, "Oh, that's why he doesn't have like 50,000 subscribers because he didn't focus on one area." But if I focused on one area, the other areas would suffer in comparison, and I wouldn't feel comfortable. And so, the fact that the channel reflects who I am as a person, and that there's something there for everybody, I think for me, puts me at ease. And eventually, if we get to a level where we have a lot of subscribers, then we start creating shows for other people to come on and they have a base and a foundation of subscribers and their show can have a little bit of like a launch and it could be great because eventually I want to run it, but I don't want to be the person hosting all the shows.
Right.
Eventually, I want to be the person who's like sitting back and it's making money for. So that's the goal in the end.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if there's a little curiosity in your brain, it can be explored. You don't have to go create a new show for it. You don't have to go.
Exactly.
It's great. And I'm loving what you're putting out, and I can't keep up with it.
I know it's a lot.
But it's good stuff. It's great stuff. Yeah. All right.
Thanks, bud.
No problem. Do you want to go to the good, bad, the ugly, or anything else?
Oh, yeah. Anything else you want to bring up, or are you good?
Oh, no, I think I'm good. Okay. You gave me plenty.
Okay.
Appreciate it. That was great. All right. Let me see where I'm at. Oh, yeah. That was good. So, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is directed by Sergio Leone, scored by Ennio Morricone, starring Clint Eastwood, Lee Van Cleef, and Eli Wallach. It's about a bounty hunting scam that joins two men in an uneasy alliance against a third. A bounty hunting scam joins two men in an uneasy alliance against a third in a race to find a fortune in gold buried in a remote cemetery. And Johnny, you picked this one. This is great. I love it when my guests just directly know what they want, and because I've gone through and I'm not throwing any of them under the bus. I get mental movie people are like, well, I could do this and this and this, but when they come directly, and this and another one, you're like, you pick one of these, and I'm going Good, Bad, and the Ugly, and because I like both ones, I won't. Maybe we'll talk the other one another time.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was Good, Bad, the Ugly? There's obviousness to it, but why'd you pick it for the show?
Well, I think people forget when you look at genres, there are every genre has had its run of being made fun of or being seen as lesser than. And Westerns was one of these genres that came out right out of the gate, and was just immediately captured America's attention, from the Great Train Robbery to those things where the horses are riding through, people are freaking out in the theaters. And so we've already seen the shot into the camera, all of that. We've seen that from the old days. And then, of course, into John Ford stuff, into Stagecoach in the 20s, and then into the 30s stuff, and then 40s and 50s. And so for the longest time, it was the top genre in films in America. It didn't always win awards, didn't always win Oscars or get nominated or whatever, but it was populist entertainment with the occasional artistic Western that would rise above and get nominated for like Cimarron or Stagecoach or other Westerns. Unforgiven up into 92 And I always loved the genre, and it's very America. You know, I'm the son of immigrants, but I always gravitated to like the West, the idea of the West, the idea of making your own way, you know, and in a way, the Outlaw Nation reflects that. We're building our own, ranch or homestead or whatever, a homestead or whatever. And like, so for me, that's the thing that I always loved about Westerns. And when it came to Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, that was the first Western I saw as a kid where I understood the cinematic possibilities within the genre. It's such an epic with the music, with the directing, with the acting, the story there are some serious stakes in the story, but also some great humor throughout. And then some very like emotionally devastating and unsettling and uncomfortable moments. Like when Lee Van Cleef is beating up that guy in the Civil War camp, and the guy is playing the music to drown out the screams of torture, and he's crying, and it's like, this is a Western, but this is a hardcore Western
and
that is not shying away.
Beautiful too.
Yeah, the song is beautiful too. Yeah,
and you're like, this informs your Tarantino's later on, of course, but just at that moment. For sure. The
haunting nature of it all, but also there are emotional moments within the characters' lives. Eli Wallach, his back and forth with his brother is so interesting because I mean, remember, this is the 60s, right? This is when this film comes out in the 60s. What's going on in the country is you're seeing this rebellion from the younger generation against the older generation. This idea of don't trust anyone over 30, Vietnam, all of this, and the idea that the son who ran off to try to find his fortune in his life and left the other son at home to take care of his parents, both have a righteousness in their decisions, right? Like Eli Wallach, his brother's, who's a priest, is calling him out and saying, you were a disgrace to the family, blah, blah, blah. And he calls him out and says, you didn't have the guts to do what I did. You stayed at home. So you think you're somehow noble because you stayed at home, but you're not. You're a coward because you couldn't do what I did. And it's like, whoa, I'd never seen that in a Western before. An actual emotional interaction that is about family and relationship, something I can understand as a guy who was constantly trying to figure out how to, find my path and my journey and leave my house. It kind of connected with me even at a young age, what was going on,
Yeah. And in like film world like this, a lot of the credit, Bonnie and Clyde gets a lot of credit for bringing on New Hollywood, but Leone secretly is doing this and informing the guys that'll be New Hollywood. I mean, Westerns weren't like his until A Fistful of Dollars. They weren't ugly. They weren't, the way his use of shots, like, and I think that kind of, granted, it's period piece, so it's not so obviously informing as Bonnie and Clyde, but I think there's a lot of Leone in there. I mean, Lucas will borrow from him, and Spielberg, they'll all take from him, but there's something to that one, and this is like, of the Dollars trilogy, this is like the grand opus of them. Yeah. And then you'll find majority likes this or Once Upon a Time in the West as Leone's masterpiece or whatever. I'm a big for a few dollars more guy, but I think picking these is stupid. Like they're all great. Like tomorrow I might go, you know what, it was Good, Bad, and the Ugly, or they're all fascinating to go through. And I've actually gone through these during our quarantine lockdown periods. I've been going through I went through the picked up the Leone set from Kino Lorber, so it had all of them except for his first one and Once Upon a Time in America. So I'd recently gone through these, and I watched it again before this because why not watch Good, Bad, and the Ugly? Because it's great. But there's so much in here, like technique wise, that just amazes me as well. And like you're saying, there's a lot of deep stuff that, like when I was a kid, I didn't pick up on a lot of it. But as I get older and I return to it, I see more and the deep stuff and like the stuff with the priest, the brother priest. And I also like to think, like, we think, Tuco's a little shit, but look how Eastwood treats him throughout the film. Like, that's he's a shithead to everybody, but you see him treated worse than almost you see him treating other people, or maybe that's why he treats people like shit like that, because he can't take it out on Eastwood.
Well, I mean, look at it in a symbolic way, and you can and we can look at it now in 2020 in this way, but then maybe not in times past, and maybe other people did and it wasn't loud enough or whatever. But if you break down Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, right? The bad is the bad. It is evil. It's Nazis. It's just like 100% evil. There is no There is no like gray here. There is no like, oh, there's a reason for why he's doing what he's doing. No, he's very much an evil person. The good is this idea of Clint Eastwood and what he's doing. But is he really good? Because he's involved in a scam. He's got basically Tuco by a string all the time, changes the terms on things when he sees fit, when he deems fit. And Tuco is this guy trying to survive in a world caught between both of these guys. He's not all the way bad. He's not all the way good. He's just trying to live. Now, if you make Clint Eastwood's character America, and you make Lee Van Cleef's character, whoever you want to make, Russia or whatever, what about all these other little countries that have to survive from the scraps of the table of these two world powers? And so we want to judge Tuco, but in fact, Tuco is just about every other nation trying to survive in this crazy world. And remember, again, this is the 60s. This is Vietnam. Yeah. Even his comments about the Civil War is his comments about Vietnam, because we were having our own civil war in the country between the young and the old about protesting Vietnam. So that all is circling. So if Blondie is America, look what America's doing. America claims to be good, believes itself to be good, but it's involved in these scams. It's involved in cheating people out of money. It's involved in, lying and trying to get the treasure that's at that grave at the end. So America is always conniving and blah, 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 but it's putting on that good looking all-American, white, blue-eyed face. And so if you want to break it down, you can break it down. So Tuco's, there's all these other countries that are judged by America, but they're actually just trying to survive in the world that the two superpowers have constructed. So it's just fascinating to look at.
That analogy works. And also to put the good kills more people than the ugly and the bad combined. And also, when it comes to it, the good wears the clothes of the Confederate soldier. The bad wears the clothes of the Union soldier in this movie.
Right.
It's a really weird dynamic that they go for there. Yeah. Granted, none of them have allegiance to either side, but the movie also decides to show us a Union concentration camp of sorts and nothing on the Confederate side other than hurt soldiers and demolished cities and people planning for after, because they know they're gonna lose. And it's really interesting. They do have the characters do have a bit. Eastwood's Blondie has a sympathy for fallen soldiers that we see a couple times. That is shown, but. That is an interesting, great analogy of the America, and Eastwood is the great American actor.
It's the spirit of the West.
Yeah. And this, of course, falls as a prequel to the other films by design. But it's always been did they totally intend for it, or it just happened because of his clothes? But it works. And I do, going back to the beginning, I love, this movie has one of my favorite introductions, 3 introductions to characters, but I love how they introduce them. They all, trivia fact, they kill 3 people each before we go on to meeting the next one. But
oh wow, yeah.
Tuco, he gets 3 hitmen on him, and it kind of gives you all about him in one scene that you're going to see the rest of the movie. Angel Eyes has just a dynamite intro, it's creepy, just sitting at the table and just showing between 2 different parties that paid him to kill. And he kills a kid, too. So you just know this guy's, don't fuck with him. And then Eastwood, of course, kills 3 people to free Tuco.
Right. Well, Sergio loves that idea of killing kids, right? I mean, in Once Upon a Time in the West as well, when Henry Fonda, it's a quick shortcut to make someone completely evil. Even Game of Thrones, first episode is Nicholas Coster-Waldau pushing the kid out the window and immediately evil, and so it's the easy way out.
Unpredictable, they'll kill a kid. So what else will they do?
What else can they do? Yeah, exactly.
It always happens. Oh shoot, they killed a kid. That means I guess anyone's in danger because a child died. That's what they do.
Exactly.
But where was it going? The introduction's good. Let me look at my notes real quick.
Okay.
Apologize.
No, sorry.
You go in some interesting directions, and I was like, oh yeah, this is great. Man, wow, I'm dumbfounded here. But
okay,
yeah. So basically, I mean, the story is through 3 people, but they switch around with allegiances following getting closer to this Confederate gold we learned about. It starts with a scam, and then the way these parts move and change is incredibly natural, never forced, and just it works. It flows. It's fast. This is like almost a 3-hour movie. And and they spend a lot of time. Even the finale in the cemetery is a half hour. Doesn't feel like it at all, and that's incredibly. This is one of my favorite sets of all time. That was because it was built that huge cemetery, or the cameras trickery with it, but it is dynamic. It's huge. It's full of graves, full graves. Probably a lot of trickery with distance and stuff, but it just looks amazing.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, it's and the thing is, the film does its job. Because you're right, a half an hour end scene in a cemetery would be exhausting in just about any other film. Because you're like, well, my God, we're still here, And I liken it to 13 Assassins. If people have seen 13 Assassins, the final battle is 45 minutes long. 45 minutes long, a samurai battle for 45 minutes. It's insane. But it's because everything that leads up to the 45 minutes is so well done that you are just relishing the fact that you're finally getting the battle. And the same thing here, everything leading up to the cemetery scene is so well done that when you get there, you're just now on the the edge of your seat, standing on the tip of a needle, on the pin of a needle, just kind of wondering what's going to happen, And so even if you've seen it multiple times, it's still, because it's such a well constructed film, it still ratchets up the tension inside you, so that when you're there and you're open to receiving what Leone was doing, you are on the edge as well all over again, watching that end sequence between the three. And that it was just so classic. The eyes, the close-ups on the eyes looking at each other. It's brilliant.
Only
it's
certain
so
directors
brilliant.
can pull it off. I mean, and you get did he, I think you're a more wealth of knowledge of Westerns than I am, of course, but did he come up with more of the itchy trigger finger close-up than others? Or, because I know there's the just sitting with the hand like that, but he really gets you to think the guy you're watching is going to pull.
Yeah, it's tough to say with him, because remember, he wasn't the only one doing these kinds of movies at the time.
Oh, yeah.
He just became the most famous.
Yeah.
So I would hesitate to say that he was the one that came up with it, or with the itchy trigger finger thing, because it could very well have been other Italian directors or other spaghetti Western directors who had kind of done that, and he took that and used it in movies that had more wider acclaim or wider attention, and so he gets the credit versus someone who maybe came up with it in a smaller cowboy or Western film rather. And I don't want to get into any trouble. People get so mad when you say the wrong thing on these things.
Oh yeah, the podcast thing. Don't they know?
That's bullshit. It was a union.
Let me pull up Wikipedia and IMDb and get some.
Right. People get mad. So, I mean, so that's what I would say. I said, for me, I hadn't seen it until I saw a Sergio Leone film, but that doesn't mean it wasn't in existence beforehand. So, yeah, for sure.
Right. And I feel like every time I watch it, I wonder if when, not Eli Walk, Lee Van Cleef, Angel Eyes, when he's gets shot down, he falls in the casket. Yeah. And then as Eastwood is walking past him, he shoots his hat and it goes onto him. And I'm wondering if, I've never looked up or seen anything, if that's a nod to For a Few Dollars More, where he has the little shoot off with the hat.
Oh,
with him outside, and he gives it back to him rather than shoots it away from him. And I don't know. I was like, is that just happenstance, or because it's a little extra thing on top of it? But I don't know. I kind of noticed that.
When he shoots his hat away, to me, I think it's like emasculating him. Like you're not even part of the West anymore. Like you're evil, and you're not even a cowboy. Like it's just his way of kind of completely emasculating him, in my opinion. But
right. That's true.
Could be connected though. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And each of these guys, before this, they have their own little journeys, which Lee Van Cleef is more on his own, but he does get paired with the others at times.
Yeah.
And he disappears, reappears, and it's creepy, but he doesn't, it's funny, his kills are low. Mm-hmm. I don't think he really kills anybody after the opening, but Van Cleef's good at this, but you just feel that he does. And he, infiltrates areas and finds it, and I love his respect for Eastwood with his whole well, you wouldn't talk. And he's like, no,
right?
So
agreed. And go ahead.
But if there's one guy to stand up to Eastwood in these kind of movies, it's always been Van Cleef for me. Granted, there's a couple movies together, but he's always the guy that. He's kind of he's not as tall as him. Doesn't have the good looks, but their demeanors really mash good, and I think that those two share the screen quite well together.
It's
Well,
always
the
fun to
chemistry.
see the journey of Lee Van Cleef in the westerns. You know,
Mhm.
from like from High Noon to
Right? Yeah,
Liberty
High Noon. Yeah,
Valance.
just as a hired gun in High Noon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of all these, his journey, you know, there's always like Jack Elam. You love seeing the journey of these guys, Slim Pickens, all these guys that have been like staples in westerns. You
Mhm.
love seeing their journey from when they first started to where they do their last western, and certainly with Lee Van Cleef. I don't think any genre fit him as well as the westerns did. He looked great in a cowboy hat. His angular features for a villain were perfect, and as he
Yeah.
got older, you saw that the characters he created were less emotional. You know, when you watch him when he's younger, there's more of that piss and vinegar, right? Like
Mhm.
Costner in Silverado is almost unrecognizable to anything that comes after.
Right.
You know, if you compare No Way Out Costner to Silverado Costner, that is two completely different people. And
True.
that's the character that he honed for the rest of his career. And I think with Lee Van Cleef, once he got past the early stuff being all emotional and you know, exuberant, once he settled into who he was older as a man, that really came through with his parts as he became older, and he brought so much weight to them. And like you said, didn't kill as much, didn't have to though,
Right.
because the dread of him is almost as much as him killing a bunch of people.
Yeah. You feel any like after that setup for the first scene and the second, you're like any scene now he's gonna kill somebody. If he's in with
Yeah.
somebody, like he might not. Except for Eastwood, you're like that guy's going to the end. But yeah, and you know Wallach's got a journey, and his is fun. His has a lot of like improv, tomfoolery, and
Yeah.
just a mix between comedy and evil things. Like the scene with him in the gun shop. That is
Yeah.
some
Oof.
crazy shit with him.
Yeah.
And apparently they just let him go. Like that was not in the script, and he just took the gun apart, put it together, and just harassed the shopkeep guy. And that's just that. Yeah, for me, that's his scene for me with that one.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I know people like the bathtub scene, but
Yeah.
that one works for me.
I think Raimi paid an homage to that in Quick of the Dead, when you with Russell Crowe, like, you know, how much can I get for this, or what can I do? And he started putting it together. It's all falling apart. I thought that was a little bit of an homage. Maybe I'm wrong, but it felt like a little bit of an homage.
Right, the
to
great
those
trigger, the how much, and he's like $50, and you're like, and then you realize, oh, he's talking about the cash register. Okay, that's good. That's good stuff.
Exactly.
And you know him always trying to corner Eastwood and drag him through the desert. I mean, this stuff's just brilliant. Like it's that stuff that's like, damn, I will never be this good at like writing anything. and these were considered just like, you know, little exploitation westerns almost.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we look at them as the art they should have been treated back then. And
Right.
like I watch these things and I'm like, damn, I miss this genre when I just see what Leone's putting on the screen, how he shoots it, and just so much good stuff.
Well, I think that's why I feel such an affinity for, or why I carry the seriousness of the westerns when I do the Outlaw and the Schmoedown. And look, the Schmoedown is just fun. It's people battling for trivia and championships and whatever. It's fun, but the idea that no one else like comes forward and speaks about how great the Western genre is, I feel a responsibility when I'm playing the Outlaw to make sure that that's something that I represent and convey in a powerful way, because I think Westerns are a great genre. And I think as Americans, we have to remember the lessons of the West and the lessons of these Westerns, the real lessons of these Westerns about doing the right thing, about, you know, standing up to evil, about, you know, not doubting someone, not being afraid to stand with someone when they're right against an impending evil. There's so much throughout all these Western films that I think represent the ideals and the morals and the principles that this country was founded on. And so I love to see that come forward in films, and even in Unforgiven, which of course Will Money is one of the most flawed protagonists you'll ever meet. He turns on the evil to destroy another evil, and it's an evil that's willfully evil, where his evil was an altered evil because he only ever did that when he was drunk. Gene Hackman's evil is purposeful and willful, and it's almost dictatorial. And so what Eastwood is as the imperfect assassin or the imperfect soldier to take out this evil, in that way, he also represents the idea of the underdog going against something big. And America always likes to see itself, even though it is a superpower and the number one superpower, it always likes to see ourselves as an underdog. And so in these Westerns, 9 times out of 10 in these Westerns, the protagonists are in an underdog situation and have to find their way out. You know, the Magnificent Seven, the Wild Bunch, so many of the Liberty Valance, because nobody thought, Jimmy Stewart was going to be able to shoot Lee Marvin. And so all those things, even John Wayne in True Grit, all those people he has to go overcome to get the answer, or to get that person back, to get Tom back. And so there's so much throughout the Western that is that. And so I take it very seriously when I play the outlaw, and I love doing it. I'm very blessed to be able to create a character like that and talk about Westerns and get a chance to talk about them, for sure.
Right, for sure. Yeah, I always had affinity for Outlaw Josie Wells with Eastwood.
Yeah.
That one tells. Watching it nowadays, I'm like, oh, this is the guy who, we forget that sometimes people have been wronged by the good guys at some point.
Yeah.
And you have to, kind of see that there's got to be a compassion. There's got to be an extension to bring them back to a good side with things. And just, there's a lot to learn from them, and it's great. Yeah, I wish people would go back. I think it's a genre that maybe people, there's so many, once new things started coming, wore out, and we only get a couple a year, and I don't think they do get appreciated, though. When they do come around now, they're award possibilities, stuff like that, they're well done. But to get them on a regular would be fine to have again.
Well, you're right. I mean, and they expand the Western now is more expansive than ever. If you're throwing in No Country for Old Men as a Western, or There Will Be Blood as a Western, those all qualify, because that's
modern.
It's that era, right? Modern Westerns. And to me, Slow West is a fantastic Western.
Oh yeah.
Bone Tomahawk. I've never seen a horror Western before, and that's incredible.
Yes. I always thought about writing a script with a slasher movie set in the Old West. I always thought that'd be kind of like, you can get away with that shit way easier.
Oh yeah.
Back then, and then the town thinking it's someone killing you could do the lodger in the Old West, basically.
A great point. Yeah, you could.
That was a screenplay I always thought about writing, but back in the day. But some people are like, that sounds stupid. I'm like, oh well, fine. And I never wrote it. But
and look, we see The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian brings, it's got the way. I know I got a lot of shit for that tweet.
I stood by you. I was like, that's what I'm saying. Like, all I saw with people, I will stand by, and I stood by you, and I saw a lot of people like, this is the wrong, don't be this guy, or something. I was like, no. Because when The Mandalorian, I see a lot of samurai stuff in that, and nobody was crediting anything samurai.
No
with
one
it.
was.
Like, Old West.
And so I was just frustrated.
I was like, when I saw The Last Jedi, and I was psyched after. You know what I did for like the next 2 months was I just like binged through old samurai films I hadn't seen in a long time. I was on a samurai kick with that. I'm like, Star Wars is the West, but it's also a lot of samurai, which is also the West. Like they're. Yeah. It
influenced from Kurosawa. Lucas has been very clear. His samurai films, Kurosawa samurai films, influenced Star Wars. So when I wrote that tweet, it's just my mistake to not add that extra word. I just was frustrated that morning that all anyone was talking about was the Western aspects. And look, I would never go against anything Western related, of course.
Right.
But I also felt that people were shortcutting it in a Westerner point of view and not also remembering or recognizing or calling out or highlighting the Eastern elements within The Mandalorian as well. The Lone Wolf and Cub stuff is all there, combined with the, Eastwood, Man with No Name type stuff, certainly. Right. So it's equal to me, equal Western, equal samurai tale. And so,
because I think guys like Rian Johnson, Dave Filoni, and Jon Favreau all recognize that Kurosawa is very important to what Star Wars is, and those guys put that back in there where other people. I think a lot of the part of the issues with, not to go on Star Wars tangent, but why not? They go, what makes Star Wars? And someone goes, well, Star Wars makes Star Wars. And I'm like, I like the guys that go back to what Lucas had in his brain and pull from that. And that always, when those guys do that, it always feels natural into the Star Wars universe rather than trying to just recreate Star Wars. And like Kazdan gets that too. Like I thought Solo, I don't think Solo was the film to bring in new fans, but it felt that natural. There's a lot of Bogart, Bacall type stuff in there and just classical influences from Lucas, and Howard knows that too. But those are the type of guy, when you want to expand Star Wars, you've got to go back to those wells to make it feel natural, I think.
Yeah, and Western aspects to it as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Kasdan did Silverado, so why wouldn't there be the Western aspects in it?
Yeah, those classical guys. And
agreed.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Star Wars on Good, Bad, and the Ugly, which There was actually, speaking of good, bad, and the ugly, there was a rumor that there was going to be a DC film that was going to be Batman. It was like Affleck when he was doing a Batman. It was Batman, Deadshot, and Joker doing a good, bad, and the ugly in Gotham City. And I was like, that'd have been awesome. You could trade the Civil War with crime boss stuff.
Oh yeah,
trying to figure
I think
out.
it would totally work.
I would have loved to seen that. I was like, that's a cool idea. Keep meshing old stuff with that, but that apparently never happened.
Well, that's my greatest fear, Brandon, now as I'm getting a little bit older, is I sense that people aren't turning to the classics at the levels that they did in the past.
Oh, yeah.
And I sense people are turning to like films from the 70s and 80s and somehow discounting the films from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s.
You're giving them credit. I don't think they go to the 70s enough.
That's fair. That's fair.
They hesitate when they get past 90, I think. I think
right.
80s have a lot of popcorn stuff they can like, but...
Exactly. And I'm not trying to be the old man on the porch swing yelling at the young kids or on the porch. I'm trying to say, like, to appreciate the influences in the movies that you love from the 90s and the 80s and the 2000s, which you think are so groundbreaking, quote unquote, groundbreaking. You better make sure, if you're going to call yourself any student of film, that you go back and watch the classics and study the classics.
I mean, yeah, that's what we all did. Yeah.
Yeah. And find out where all those things that you think are groundbreaking actually were first presented, actually were first seen, and realize that it's not that groundbreaking. It's actually just an homage or a way of bringing it back or using it as a launching point. And so to me, that's what I sense as I have more and more conversations with younger and younger film fans. And I see some of these pundits that are in their 20s coming out, and they can't talk about the classics to save their lives or haven't seen any international cinema at all. I'm just like, I get it if, that's the 20-year-olds are loving watching to other 20-year-olds talk about movies. Respect, knock yourself out. But if you want to get a fully fleshed out conversation about movies, you got to listen to people who are very well aware of classics and the 70s and 80s, 90s and all that stuff. Like, it's got to be a combo of the history of film, or you're not going to get a really good conversation, in my opinion.
And that never ends. You're always studying. You're always going back.
Yes.
There's always something. There's and people, I want movies back in the theater. Me too, but you realize how much is out there that you can learn, you can see that's already great.
So true.
Like, people,
so
what were they complaining about? They're like, oh, they wanted, like, I think it was back, they wanted just, screw it, give us New Mutants now. I'm like, dude, between streaming services, ordering DVDs and Blu-rays from Amazon, I can tell you for a fact, or no, it was a better movie. It was like, I think Black Widow or something. They were mad. That. And I was like, I can guarantee there are probably at least 500 movies. I haven't seen Black Widow. Nobody has, but I can guarantee there's probably 500 movies better than that at your fingertips right now.
Agreed. And you could go back.
I'm going to watch Black Widow. I'm excited to watch Black Widow.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
But I can tell you there's a lot of great stuff that you're just ignoring because of a date or something. And there's a lot of things too, John, that I think kids, they don't realize you got to get in the mentality of when that film was made too when you sit down.
Right. Perspective. Yes.
And you got to, and that's why with my children, I've given them a variety of different eras so they can see effects. They're not going to be goofy because they didn't see anything old till now or whatever. And I just, you got to, just let them see the evolution of like film and stuff and just constantly go back, watch Hitchcock. Like, how can a young person not get into Hitchcock?
Right. Or Kubrick.
Yeah.
I've talked to people who have YouTube channels and they've never seen a Kubrick film. And they joke about it like, oh, I'll get around to it. And it's, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What could you possibly have to offer to the conversation?
Right.
If you haven't studied the classics, I'm sorry.
Friedkin
said be mad all you want.
Friedkin said it best. He said that you don't need money for film school. You don't need to do film school. You just need to watch the filmography of Alfred Hitchcock. And you will not need to do film school. Not everybody can be Kubrick, I don't think, with the photograph. Right.
But Brandon, nowadays, I mean, every DVD, every Blu-ray, every special edition is a film school, or at least a film class within itself.
Yeah.
If you listen to the commentary, if you watch the special features, like every Criterion, I just have stacks of Criterion. Yeah. Every time there's a 50% sale, I'll go buy whatever I don't have, and foreign films or
Right.
domestic films, and you watch, and it's a class to teach you how to look at movies, how to understand movies, how to learn about movies,
how they were seen. Like, I love how they were seen in the era, the time of that comes across. And I just had Justin Beam. He creates bonus material, not for Criterion, but for other ones. And I was talking he did a commentary on Munster Go Home, the Munsters movie for theaters. But he had Butch Patrick on it, and he had Rob Zombie on it. And through the conversation, I really love this commentary. I highly you really get an idea of the 60s television landscape, or 50s, 60s television landscape like no other. Like, I don't think people realize that reruns weren't a thing. You didn't have a wealth of syndicated television. There was prime time was like 6 o'clock on through the night.
Right.
And it just, like, Butch Patrick and Rob Zombie really paint a good picture of like television in that era. And I think good releases are a school. Yes, they are, and they should leave you with no questions. But yeah, I really think those can help you. They can teach. And kids, there's a Fellini box set coming out this month. You should check it out.
Yeah.
It's going to be hundreds of dollars. And if you don't like them, guess what? There's some dork like me that will probably is looking for a cheaper price and will buy it.
Right. Or sign up for the Criterion channel for $10 a month.
Oh, gosh.
And you get access to all those films to
That's
learn.
what I like. There seem to be like people are catching on to Filmstruck really good, but not Criterion Channel. Filmstruck had like people like, oh my gosh, I've never seemed to be catching on, and then Criterion Channel does it, and I just don't see the buzz as much as I did before with Filmstruck. But that is a great channel.
Well, I think people connect Criterion to like, oh, this is elevated, this is blah blah blah, and so they see it as snobbish or out of, and whereas Filmstruck was like, cool, Filmstruck, you know. But I think that's what it is more than anything else.
But I've been like, I'm watching guys like, I learned stuff like Bava and Argento looking through Italian horror films, just things that were seen as lesser, but man, they have influenced a shitload. And just having them also, we live in an era where you have 4K, you have Blu-ray, you have hopefully good streams, and you can actually see them as beautifully and crisp as they were supposed to look, rather than shoddy DVDs, VHS.
Agreed.
You can learn a lot. Okay. We went way off, but it was great. All right, we'll go to the next. So what else? This is a segment where we talk about other media we've taken in recently. So, John, what else?
Good question. Well, I mean, sticking with the Western genre, this actually happened the other day. I had never seen Will Penny before, the Charlton Heston Western. And I was just rummaging through channels, and it had just started. I had a couple of hours. I was working on a show that I was going to do for the Outlaw Nation, and then you know what? I put down the computer and I just sat and watched a movie, which I hadn't done in a little bit of time. So I just sat and watched Will Penny, and I was absolutely enthralled by it. Totally loved it. Charlton Heston claimed that it is his favorite film role that he's ever played, and he played Moses, for God's sakes. And he's saying this is his favorite film, and Ben-Hur. But this character of Will Penny is one of the favorite characters he's ever played, or the favorite characters ever played. And then I went on to YouTube and I found a great interview with John Grease, because John Grease's father directed Will Penny. And John Grease is the kid in Will Penny, because Will Penny protects this young mother and her child. He is the kid in Will Penny. So you get to hear these Charlton Heston stories from John Grease in this interview. So just fascinating. And it's one of these Westerns that just was in my blind spot that I hadn't seen yet. And I thoroughly, thoroughly loved it and had a great time watching that. And then we're doing a rewatch of Community right now. My girlfriend and I. Yeah, she's never seen it. So I came out from whatever I was recording, and she was 2 episodes into the first season or 3 episodes, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And she goes, "Oh, I just thought I'd finally start this because I'd always kind of wanted to." And I was like, "Oh my God, I will absolutely sit down with you and rewatch this entire show," because my girlfriend doesn't watch American shows. She only watches British shows, and she's obsessed with those. And so I was like, "Oh my God," I was set. So we're about to finish season 2, and we've been ripping through 4 or 5 a night, up to 6 sometimes, because it's quick. They're 20 minutes each.
Yeah, I love the 20 minutes each. I watch a lot of. I'll go back and watch a lot of classic Doctor Who because they're like 22 minutes
nice.
each, and I get through there. So I just randomly grab one of my DVDs or something, pop it in. Speaking of John Grease, do you remember he was at one of our holiday parties one year when we were at IQC or Testronic?
Really?
We had the UCLA soundstage, and everybody's like, Uncle Rico's here. That's totally him. And he was friends with somebody we worked with. And he wanted to come to a holiday party
He's
with
like, free booze, I'll come. Yeah. He seemed like
man.
a genuinely awesome guy too.
Yeah.
So in the interviews. So yeah. Is there anything more modern in terms of films that I've been watching? No, I went to see Tenet for the first time. Finally in a theater. Yeah. I saw it in IMAX. My girlfriend got it for me for my birthday. She bought the tickets for me for my birthday. We went and sat and watched it in IMAX. Incredible music, incredible visuals, completely confusing, convoluted story. So, but
for now, until a second watch or third.
Third watch. But like the acting was great. It was great to see John David Washington. I mean, it's kind of I'm old enough to have seen both Denzel Washington's debut and now John David Washington's debut on film. So as a lead, and so it's just crazy to think about. But really enjoyed being out in the theater again, being in an AMC, being in IMAX. It was nice to do that again, at least for once. But yeah, it was, that's the most recent modern film I think that I've seen.
Gotcha. For me, I saw last week. I still have to write my review, but Antebellum. You see that one?
Oh no, I haven't seen that one yet.
Well, I won't say too much, but I liked it a lot. I've seen some diverse opinions on it.
Yeah,
but it worked.
Very divided. Yeah,
it plays with you a lot. It knows that it knows you've seen movies before, and then plays with the fact that it knows you've seen movies before. It's got some great performances. It's kind of brutal to watch, but it's a directorial debut by a team of directors, and you won't believe it's done by a team. And from the opening on, you're like, what other films have they did? Oh, this. And just their opening scene, they do a lot of twisted Gone with the Wind stuff, so they take that as an inspiration for their look.
Interesting.
And then play it to the harsh realities of what Gone with the Wind would be.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not going to say any, I want you to be as surprised as I was when you check it out. Maybe you'll hate it. Maybe you'll be on that side, and I'll be on the side that liked it, but it's one of my favorite films of the year so far. Of course, I watched Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 1. When this airs, there will be 2 episodes, but watch the first episode. Guess what? It's still good. It's like Timothy Olyphant's there now, so woo! That's awesome. And then I just read a script for someone called it's called Bystanders. It's a little kind of violent horror story that kind of turns like rape, revenge, and innocent people caught on the road on its head a little bit. Wow. But it's a film that might have has a potential. They're trying to shoot a proof of concept thing, and they wanted me to take a look at it. And
nice.
I like it. It's good.
Cool.
Solid. And so that's it for me, and that'll do it for today. So John Rocha, holy shit, thank you for taking the time to stop in. And where can people keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, you can always follow me on social media at The Rocha Says. That's my homage to The Rock, ROCHA. And you can also follow my channel. If you want to come see the content that we were talking about earlier, you can go to youtube.com/John Rocha Says, JOHN, and see all the shows we're offering there and all the extra content like reviews and conversations. We reviewed Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 1 as well. Probably Episode 2 review will be up by the time you hear this. So you go and watch that as well. And all the politics, sports, film, TV, it's all there for you to enjoy and have a good time with. So please come and patronize it. Oh, and my podcasts, the Top 10 Show, the Cinephiles, and Geek Buddies, all of them. Cinephiles is a classic, dive into classic or great films that are at least 10 years old. And the Top 10 is just count down the top 10 of whatever film topic we want to talk about, and the Geek Buddies just getting together and talking about the news stories of the week. A lot of stuff.
Geek Buddies with the wonderful Mike Vogel.
Yes, with the wonderful Mike Vogel and Shannon McClung. Yes.
And Shannon. And okay, so I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon4KUHD, written work at whysoblu.com. I'll be back tomorrow with another installment of 4K Blues Day. But until then, always remember to keep the positivity in your online film chatter.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at thebrandonpetersshow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at thebrandonpetersshow.com. The show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.